Before we begin this episode of Undercooked Analysis, I want to take a moment to honor the memory of Sam, aka Rabid Radioactive Raccoons, who passed away unexpectedly near the beginning of August. Sam was a longtime listener and supporter of the show and the author of stories like How to Summon a Fish and Beta Testing. While I didn't know him well personally, I don't want to understate how much I appreciate him sharing his talent and time with us and the community. We're all a lot richer for it, I'd say. So, thank you, Sam. Thank you.
And I say, welcome to Under Shakespeare Analysis. We are no longer discussing. We're discussing Shakespeare. We're not discussing stories anymore.
Yeah, I decided. No, this is fair. This is absolutely fair. You know what's funny is the one Shakespeare play I haven't seen that I'd like to is the Scottish play.
No, I haven't seen it in person. I would love to as well, actually.
We're not in a theater, but I still feel compelled to say the Scottish play.
The one play I want to see live is A Winter's Tale.
Oh,
there are some. It's one of those plays that you're reading, you're like, it's kind of boring, but then I saw like a staging of it, like a film staging of it, and it looks amazing because there's a point where someone gets eaten by a bear, and you're like, how do you show someone getting eaten by a bear on stage? And then also the fact that there's a statue that comes to life, and like this was definitely meant to be performed, not read. There's some plays that are really of his that I think are better read than they are performed. I think, as I'm going through it in my head, Hamlet's actually pretty good.
I see some good. I've seen both productions of Hamlet I saw were pretty good.
Hamlet is good. It's up there with Romeo and Juliet of like everyone does it and everyone knows it, so you're kind of like, yeah, okay, there's other plays.
The key difference is I think Hamlet is a better play.
Well,
a better story.
I think Hamlet is technically Shakespeare's magnum opus.
Interesting because I have to. I agree. I think it's one of his better plays, like on a critical level. I will agree with Abysmii from earlier. By the way, listen to the dregs if you want to hear this bit. But I would love to see Titus performed. I've never seen Titus performed apart from the film, and it would be really wild to see it performed.
I think the wild part about Titus is the fact that, well, not wild, but it makes sense. It's one of his earlier plays. So he was young when he wrote this, and you can tell that he's just like, I want to be edgy, but he's a good writer, so it works, but it's like, yeah, I can see the edginess of it.
It's kind of like his death metal posters up, and then they bake him into a pie and they eat human flesh.
And they don't even know it until Titus is like, ha-ha! Right after he snaps his daughter's neck.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I know.
Hi. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The play that's better read than it is seen performed, I would have to say, is King Lear.
You think Lear is better read?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you think of like the things that happen on stage, it's a very talky play, but the words are beautiful and poignant. But it's like, okay, we're talking. There, with the theater, you kind of want to see a performance come to life.
Truth.
Yeah.
You know what I will say? I don't think the comedies are harder than the tragedies, because for the comedies to be actually funny, I think you need to get people who are good at performing, so people get what's happening between the lines. And I definitely had that. I saw a production of 12th Night.
Yes, me too.
And it was funny as hell.
Yeah, 12th Night, if done well, is hilarious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've also seen The Taming of the Shrew as a... remember, did we see that one together?
No, but that...
10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
Which has aged perfectly, by the way.
Yes.
When you take the text and you make it contemporary, but also better.
Oh my God. What are we reading?
Well, we're not reading Shakespeare, surprisingly enough, though we did talk about it for a while. I'm David, and my favorite death in a Shakespeare play is probably Ophelia.
Yeah, that's a... Jeez.
Introduce yourself. Name your favorite death.
My name's Abysmii, and it's people getting baked into fucking pies.
They fucking deserved it, too, though.
They did.
God, God, that's too hard. My name is Kaela, and the way that I would want to die is like Yoda. Very, very old, cuddled up in bed as a hot guy tucks me in, and then I just disappear into the ether.
When 900 years old, you reach look this good, you will not.
Yes, I want to be at that 900-year-old age, and it's like, yes, I'm dying, and then this hot little man just tucks me in, and I'm just like, give some wisdom of advice, and then I just disappear into the ether.
I cannot imagine how awkward it had to have been for Yoda, who knew Anakin Skywalker, to just hold his tongue the entire time he's around Luke, going, "Your dad was a lot of edge on that one." Very whiny. He really wouldn't shut up. You know what? I'm starting to see the resemblance.
Yeah,
whiny he was.
It's a strong trait in Skywalker males. It is in females. It is not.
Ow, God.
Ow. I've made that observation
Luke landed,
before.
and he's just like, "Oh, it's the brother. Okay, yeah, I guess we'll deal with this."
I mean,
Here's, and then Yoda is like, "Oh, thank God, I don't have to deal with Kylo." Die before.
Yeah, God, it really is a trait, isn't it? Even the Solo part couldn't rule that out with Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
With Ben Solo.
Nope.
He inherited the Skywalker male gene of being a whiny little bitch. Shakespeare, Star Wars, we're all over the place.
Is there a liminal space?
Oh, yeah, we were supposed to be at a liminal space meeting. This is our third trip, real estate agents. I got a hell of a property for us all to examine today and see if we can get it on the market. Right now, the market is still pretty huge. I don't know if it's oversaturated yet, but I think we have an angle for this one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like we all don't work in the same field, right? I mean...
I'm just flashing back to our Haunted Mansion podcast recording.
You knew I was thinking about it, too.
Yes.
We were just on an episode. I know this is a weird plug to throw there. Kaela and I were just on an episode of our friend's podcast, Nothing New, a remake podcast. That was with Justin Keyson and Andrew Lindy. And we talked about The Haunted Mansion, the 2003 film with Eddie Murphy, and Haunted Mansion, the 2023 film with a lot of other people who are more relevant these days. And it was a lot of fun, but brought up the very salient point that one of the reasons that Eddie Murphy's character comes off as much of a douche as he is because he and his wife have the same job. They're both real estate agents, and yet it seems like he does all the doesn't seem like he does all the work, but he does all the work, and then he complains, is like makes some comment at her about like, it's okay if I do this as long as I buy you expensive gifts. I'm like, you have the same job.
You work like supposedly
this is a shared field.
You're supposedly a team. What the fuck is
this? Is so weird.
Listen to that and you can hear me, bitch.
Yeah, that's our plug for
All
that
right.
one. But in the meantime, I'm giving you the property posting, and this is the third one from that Liminal Spaces story contest sent to us by HyperThermal, and it is simply titled Pea Bee and Jay.
By the way, whenever I think of it's funny with liminal spaces, sometimes my brain goes liminal spaces. Like the Living Spaces commercial.
Yeah, I actually, that makes sense. I actually could hear that too.
Mom has got the magic of liminal space.
Whoa.
And it would appear, based on the image, our liminal space is a bridge.
But if you hover your mouse over, so this is on, I think, the creepypastafandom.com. But if you hover your mouse over the photo, it actually zooms in a little.
If you do it enough, there's a jump scare. No,
video game render?
It kind of
It's not like an actual photo, I don't think.
No, it's definitely atmospheric. I think just based on any liminal space idea, I feel like Hyper got dealt a relatively better picture for this one. I don't know.
It doesn't, go ahead.
It's better. It's not a true liminal space because I can see the end.
Yes.
How is this so difficult?
I don't understand it because I'm like, that's not a liminal space. That's not the idea behind a liminal space.
Oh, well.
Well, that's why we have to determine if this is market viable for liminal spaces. We're kind of down. Clerics was an actual. Well, no.
No,
No.
you can see the bottom.
I
You can see
think-
the floor level.
I think
Strike
Beth,
3 and we're out, gang. We gotta hopefully.
Beth is kind of. I can kind of see it with a cornfield if you're in the middle of one.
It's the
But-
closest, but it's not. An open space is not necessarily a liminal space, because if it's infinitely open, it's not the space between two spaces. It's just open.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. This is really stretching the limit of what I consider liminal space, but you know what? Hyper got an image, had to work with it, and I want to know what he has to say. So why don't we have some juicy big paragraphs to start with. So I would like to open the floor to either of you if you'd like to take it. Otherwise, you could vote to make me do it. I am indifferent.
You go first.
Do it, coward.
Okay, fuck you.
You won't.
John knew he was cursed. No other explanation would make sense in his mind. For the past 3 hours, he'd been trapped on Peter's Bridge in the middle of a fierce blizzard. Whenever he had taken a step off of the snow-covered path, his vision would be blurred in a haze of white, and he would be right back at the other end. He had considered jumping from the sides of the bridge to the ground below, as it was a fairly short fall. When he had first peered over the railings to gauge the distance, however, it became apparent that while a fall wouldn't kill him, but his older age meant that he would be seriously wounded, likely breaking a leg. This would be manageable on its own, but he could sense something under him, something too terrible to deal with, something he felt was responsible for his predicament. Its presence was subtle, but it was there, and it was hunting him down. Why it wouldn't just come up to the top of the bridge was beyond him, but as long as he was above it, he was safe for the time being.
Interesting way to begin.
Yeah, we're just right into the thick of the action.
Yeah, this is what's happening.
Mhm.
So by the way, John is a goat, and there's 2 other goats. What's under the bridge?
God.
I know, feet.
Oh my god. That'd be kind of wild if that was the premise.
I'm waiting for that. That would be a drop, wouldn't it? It's a goat.
He sat down. Oh.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Do
You
it.
go
Do
ahead.
it. You do it.
Okay. He sat
Fighting.
down at the middle of the bridge, leaning his back against the poles and rungs that were designed to keep the thoroughfare from tumbling off the sides. Maybe if he just rested here, he thought, he could wait this all out. The blizzard could end, someone would walk by and drag him back to normalcy, or he could wake up from this terrible dream. As he pondered his options and possibilities, John couldn't help but think back to the history of Peter's Bridge. Named after the local philanthropist who had funded its construction, it was also where that man would be undone. Peter, old and fairly wealthy, had many involvements with women, his last being Marie. 4 years ago, almost coming to 5 in a few days, there was an altercation between the two. Marie had confused Peter on this bridge. Confronted Peter on this bridge.
This situation is confusing. So,
Who are you? What are you doing here? Though over what was never fully known to the public. The low traffic the place saw during the winter all but ensured that her body would not be found until a week had passed. Multiple wounds to her face and neck, bruising on the side of her body with broken ribs underneath, and utterly frozen.
dun dun dun. So this is possibly a haunted bridge too.
I'm gonna wait till we get to the end. I don't know, the whole like him just saying, I'm gonna think of why this bridge came to be. I know it's a way to give a background, but it feels a little forced.
I don't know.
bit.
Well, again, I don't know what you do with a singular bridge that you can clearly see the end of as far as a liminal space. Because I think you have 2 options. You stay in place or you walk forever if it's a true liminal space. There's not a lot you can do there. Especially with the image, there's not a lot on the sides. There's nothing overhead. When you have this empty space, there's not a lot to work with.
That's the clever part. How Hyper has made the story in order to feel like an actual liminal space is actually a good idea. Like, have it so you can escape.
The way that the bridge is described and the way that John is kind of just blipping from end to end feels like a video game transition. You know, the screen gets whited out. When it fades back in, your character is standing on the other end of the bridge. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but I can't unsee that right now. This is very much, you're in the Lost Woods, you make a wrong turn, the fog rolls in, and then you're back where you started. You have to solve this puzzle.
You're in Silent Hill, son.
Cheryl? Cheryl!
Peter was investigated and tried and was soon found guilty of both this murder and several others.
Oh.
Admittedly lesser crimes. He was given a life sentence, though it was shortened by Peter's creative use of prison bed sheets half a year ago. This was fairly recent.
Damn.
It was that horrific murder that was the source of John's curse, he reckoned. People do say that hauntings happen around places of great trauma, or at least that's what he heard anyway. John curled up as tightly as he was able and drifted off to sleep.
Well, he's going to sleep on the bridge in the snow. This isn't going to go well for him.
He's going to die.
Yep. Well,
In a
there'll be another
blizzard.
ghost on the bridge.
Maybe, I feel like maybe he could have, there could be a reason, like, how does he know this? Like, maybe bring up, like, how he
Well,
knows
there?
that.
Yeah.
well, we still don't know exactly what's going on. We have a page break here. And by the way, this is a fairly short story.
Yeah.
We're free to discuss it. It's more like just being thrown into the thick of the action. We don't really... I don't even know if he knows why he's there.
But how does he know this knowledge? How does he know about Peter's Bridge?
Guess where does Pea Bee and Jay fall into it?
Ooh.
Unless the first part of P is Peter.
Peter. Well, Jay could be a nickname for John. So
Yeah.
So who's B?
Oh, is that the bridge?
I'm the bee. Said the bee. It's just a bee. It comes up and stings him while he's asleep. Let's press on. Let's see if the rest answers these questions for us. It had been almost a whole day by John's recollection, and still he was trapped on Peter's Bridge, and still the blizzard screamed around him. While the snow was just enough to help sate his thirst, John knew he would soon starve to death if the cold didn't take him first. He lost count of how many attempts to walk off the bridge he made, but it was well over 1,000 times by now, and vaulting off the sides seemed like an even worse of an idea than it did before, as it was clear the thing stalking around down below was prepared for something. It had haphazardly placed some dark blue-looking stones all over the ground, and that made John feel deeply uneasy. Uh-oh, it's performing a ritual.
After another few hours, John paused and just looked at his surroundings. Whatever light made it through the blizzard was reddish-orange, giving the snow around him a peculiarly, I can't fucking talk, light orange-brown color that reminded him of peanut butter. Oh, there we go.
Ooh.
And those little stones looked like grapes, what John wouldn't give for a good filling peanut butter and grape jelly sandwich. Just like the ones he used to bring to school as a young lad. The chewy, rough surface of bread, the creamy texture of the peanut butter spread, and the sweet, tart taste of that jelly. Oh, how he craved it, hungered for it, needed it. If only he weren't stuck in this horrible blizzard, trapped on this never-ending bridge. Though now that he was thinking of it, John didn't feel cold at all. In fact, he was feeling rather warm now. That is hypothermia, and probably frostbite. Too warm for the bulky winter clothing he was wearing. As he took off the glove on his right hand, revealing the bluish, purple fingers beneath, John suddenly remembered the truth.
Dun, dun, dun. That's a good... I really like that paragraph, actually. I like how
it's good.
Yeah.
Great way to describe hyperthermia with just a description alone, and not saying, oh, he has hyperthermia.
Right.
Yeah, that was really good.
It's funny because I have not had a PB and J in so long, but recently, because so for those who don't know, and this is probably timing, making this a bit more time. This is time stamping it. California just went through its like quote unquote first hurricane in 84 years. So
quote unquote.
There was a point where we were Dave and I were like talking with my mother, or this would be my mother-in-law, David's mother, and they said, she was like, oh, you should get some jelly, like make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'm like, I never thought about that. If the power goes out and we need
the ultimate survival food, peanut butter and jelly.
Absolutely. I love them. I haven't had them in years because bread bad. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a gluten allergy. It's just like, but start eating healthy. Stop eating bread all the damn time, idiot.
No, I mean, I would make garlic bread all the time, but Ramona told me bread makes you fat.
I try to eat wheat bread more to make up for it.
If I force myself not to buy it, I won't eat it. But sometimes when I'm out, oh boy.
We don't honestly eat that much bread, to be honest. At least I don't think we do. Do we?
I mean,
I haven't eaten that much.
Not like actual bread, sliced bread, but like bread on other things.
I mean, yeah, okay, fair. That's fair.
I do drink fast loads of beer, so...
Beer is just liquid bread.
It is.
Beer is liquid bread.
It is liquid bread, so I gotta give one of them up.
You get... It depends, and depending on what it's made from, you get different varieties of bread.
Mm-hmm.
All of his parts...
I don't know why that's such a weird. I never stopped to think about. I'm like, holy shit, beer is just bread.
Yeah, it's liquid bread.
Damn, never look at beer the same way again.
Listen, civilization was defined by the ability to make bread or liquid bread. It's been in our fucking human DNA for thousands of years. It's hard to get away from it.
Wait, does that mean if you add beer into a Bloody Mary, does that make it a sandwich?
A sandwich cocktail. Hell yes.
Wait. Hold on. Pause the story. Are you saying a Bloody Mary, you add bread? Wait, does that...
Well, Bloody Marys don't typically have beer in it.
No.
No, you add beer to a Bloody Mary. But then if you're going to make it a sandwich, you have to add little bacon bits. You have a BLT.
I'm trying to figure out...
Okay, there's a restaurant called the Farmer's Table, somewhat near where we live, and they specialize in Bloody Marys. I have yet to have one there because I'm not that crazy about Bloody Marys. I think they're fine, but they're not like my go-to cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
But they go from like the traditional to, oh, that's interesting, you put bacon in it, to this one is basically just a blender that you've stuck a whole cooked chicken in, and also it's a Bloody Mary. Like, it's fucking bizarre. And it's meant to be shared by like 5 people. I'm never going to order that, but you know, if they can do that to Bloody Marys, we can put beer in them.
You know, why not? What is the great? It's a great experiment, really.
Yeah.
Just put beer. Call it the BLT. The what would it be like? The
BMLT.
The BMLT. The Bloody Mary lettuce.
Yeah.
The BMLT. It's just you add beer to have the quote unquote liquid bread. Tomato juice, obviously tomato. Add bacon bits and then put a lettuce in it, and then whatever else gets added to make a.
Did we just end up on an episode of the Jameson
Oh
tapes?
my gosh!
Whoops! Quick, mention the movie.
Oh shit! What's a movie that would have a BLT?
Well, we did talk about a Bloody Mary. Anything with Bloody Mary,
like
the ghost.
Oh, there we go.
Sure, boom, done. There's
Sweet,
a movie
okay.
called Bloody Mary. I'm sure there's one.
There's probably like 900 of them on Shudder alone.
Yeah.
Or some other like, what's the Red Letter Media just talked about this. What's the like? It's like you can watch a bunch of movies for basically free.
Oh, free fucking Tubi movies.
Tubi, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's probably 100 Bloody Mary movies.
Yeah, you just look up Bloody Mary. There's gonna be like Bloody Mary versus Cyber Shark or some bullshit like that, you know?
Bloody Mary versus Cyber Shark.
I will listen, if that exists, if that actually exists, I wouldn't be surprised.
Does it fucking take place in an aquarium or something? Yeah,
so what happens here's the premise, right?
Oh,
a disgruntled aquarium employee who is fed up with the way that the group is treating the sharks, goes to a mirror in the bathroom and does the Bloody Mary thing. And when the ghost shows up, actually like does all the things right, says, I need you to kill the rest of the staff. But the staff is prepared and they have a secret shark that they've been preparing to fight a ghost.
The staff has been helping the shark by making it cybernetic. Meanwhile, kids are coming in and talking about Bloody Mary, and there's reflections in the fucking...
in the fish tanks.
In the fish tank, so...
Oh my god. That is the best idea ever.
Watch, it exists.
No, but I think you just earned about $10,000 worth of funding from Tubi.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Make it.
You know what? The one thing I can promise you is if I ever make a movie through Tubi, it probably won't be very good, but it'll be earnest. I promise you it'll be earnest. It won't just be like, you know, I will make that $10,000 stretch as much as I can. I will make an ultra low budget movie.
I now want to see Bloody Mary riding a fucking cybernetic shark holding the fucking fin.
I mean, Al and I constantly say, like, if we had budget of insert movie, we could make something better. Like,
I'm sure
it's really not that. Well, I mean, okay, no, making movies is tough, but hindsight.
I mean, look at Skinamarink, right? Budget movie, but made exceptionally well. Probably very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, you ever made 100 times your fucking budget? That's like, goddamn.
Oh, that's rare.
I think the other Prime. That's another
very
a very low budget film, did extremely well. Yeah. It's hard to understand a fucking word they say, but
Bloody Mary versus the Egyptian mummy.
I like
they're just screaming at each other the entire time.
Would the mummy be able to scream?
If you cut its wraps open, yeah.
Yeah, but also it wouldn't have a lot of its organs. They would have been removed and put into canopic jars.
Well, we're going for like the Mummy with Brendan Fraser logic. You just got to put them back together and they slowly reassemble.
Yeah, you know what? You could do it with that budget as long as it looks slightly worse than the original Imhotep did.
Damn,
aged like garbage.
Hey, but that movie still rule. Those movies still rule.
Fucking love that movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't love the Mummy.
Love that movie.
That movie slaps. Yes, the technology with it is kind of, but it's still such a fun movie to watch.
Well, and the CG portions make up a tiny part of the movie. The rest of it's amazing set design and action, and it's just fun as hell.
Fun writing. It's a great romp, and also, where else are you going to see a cat walk across the piano and scare them up? I love that scene. Just the way it walks the piano and the way his jaw just goes like, and then he runs, he gets the fuck out of there.
All right. Oh,
I
think this is all his prior knowledge of Peter's Bridge, of his younger age, his entire life and world around him was an illusion. Wait, what? John was the king of the peanut butter and jelly land, but what was the cause for those prior delusions of his paler skin and believing that the bread of his castle was a mere bridge? What?
Oh,
is he hallucinating?
Hallucination brought on probably by like malnutrition.
Of course it made sense now. The fiend who cast this curse upon him was that malicious and monstrous mage, Morbidimus Mole. That fungal fiend had infected King John with a wretched enchantment, tricking him into doubting the true nature of his reality and keeping him from his people, who were no doubt waiting his return down below.
Goddamn cordyceps.
Awesome.
This took a turn and I love it.
The funny part is I can't recall ever dealing with hallucinations, not even when I was sick or going into a weird trip like that. David has when he had that one fever, which was it was wild because you were like shaking and all that, and then after it broke, you told me like, Kaela, I felt like
I've seen some shit.
I feel like I was trapped because at that time we had played a lot of Fallout 4. It's like I felt like I was trapped in the Fallout 4 universe, and all I could hear was your radio.
It was bad. I can't hear that song without cringing now. It was literally, like when you have an insomnia bout and one thing will stick in your head. It was that song on loop indefinitely the entire fucking night.
Oof.
I hate it now. I hate that song. If it ever comes up on the radio in the game, I change the station.
I don't blame you.
Turn it off. I would rather listen to the soundtrack. Anyway. Where were we? Oh, yeah.
King John's Landing.
King John's Landing. I used to play bass for King John's Landing. King John's Landing on the soft, accumulated peanut butter was punctuated by a deep pain in his side. No doubt the last bit of Morbidimus's curse wrenching its way out of his body. He wasn't able to rise to his feet, but that was just fine for him. His most trusted members of the royal court were waiting in the castle for him. They looked different from how he remembered, though in fairness, his memory was afflicted by vile sorcery. The three of them were huddled together, drizzled with the delicious spread, staring at him with wide, toothy grins. Every single one of their 4 eyes refused to blink, no doubt out of concern for their king, and their strawberry jelly skin peeked through in specks and streaks around the necks. With brisk crunching and snapping sounds, they rushed over to the aid of their monarch. Oh dear. Spooky.
So I'm guessing he's in the hospital now.
Probably. I'm trying to figure out what these are allusions to.
Once he was escorted to the medical chambers, King John noticed that their touch on his skin was painfully cold, and their grip was getting tighter and tighter by the moment. By the time John realized that he was horrifically mistaken, that he was no king, that he had just stripped himself of his only protection against the cold, and that the faces staring at him were frozen in grimaces, it was far too late. The 3 intact hands were already digging into his throat and face, choking him with their grasp and trying to gouge out his eyes. The presence puppeteering the 3 had commandeered a 4th member to his form. It was only a matter of time before one more person crossed the bridge, became ensnared, and finally completed him.
Okay. A flip, and then a flip, and then a flip. Flip.
Very folklorish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish there was more time that could have been spent on this, because or there was a bigger word count, because it's like on the whole, it's a very interesting story and a very interesting short story. I think because of the short word count, there was only so much Hyper could put into this. And I feel it comes across as a little too like, oh God, this is happening now, and this is happening.
Yeah.
It would kind of, I don't know if you would get docked points for not staying true to the image enough, but it, you could just say, first mile encountered blank, second mile encountered blank, and then kind of build it out from there. But that also might be a bit tough because it'd be like 2 sentences per installment. And yeah, this is just tough, man. Like, I don't know what you can do with that image. It's not a lot.
It's true.
I mean, great idea with the fact that like he's stuck on this bridge and nothing he can do. He can never leave the bridge, and there's a blizzard happening.
Mm-hmm.
It is some neat imagery. I will give it that, and I do like how weird it gets at the end of it. That some of those Morbidimus mold that makes me laugh. It's a good bit.
I like the kind of just the fantasy, the fantastical jocularity of it. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. It was short and it was sweet and it was fun, and it probably, much like the other two, unfortunately, did not seems like it impressed the person running this contest, who seems very hard to please. But then again, I think they had very specific kind of things in mind when it came to what they saw as a liminal spaces story. So I'm not trying to throw shade or anything. It's more just like, I think it just seems like reading what I'm reading here, it still feels a little bit nitpicky. And they say they like this one.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what like counts as a winner here. Just
I don't
judging by this criteria. Like it's very amorphous.
I do like the fact that his hypothermia is creating this hallucination. Like the imagery is really good in this.
Hyperthermal. Yeah, no, it definitely. The hyperthermia stuff and the confusion, and then being devoured by essentially frozen corpses at the end was pretty creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. We don't have to know what's going on. That's not what I'm egging at. But like, yeah, it's an odd little story. I like it. I'm not sure what I would offer in terms of critique for this one, because I think it's just more like, again, this is a really difficult, as we've all said, it's a very difficult criteria to work with when you've got this image, which again, I would argue doesn't factor into the notion of what a liminal space actually is.
Yeah.
That being said, I will give this a fresh BMLT out of weird ideas, out of Jameson drinks that are not being made on the Jameson tapes.
I'm going to give this 3 out of 4 Bloody Mary versus Cyber Shark sequels.
You heard it here first. Hit me up, Tubi. I'll make that movie.
I'll give this. I'll give this as a challenge to Abby and Alan to eventually make a PB and J drink. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I believe it.
It's been done.
Oh, okay.
We did not invent it. I want to say Alan found it elsewhere, but he did drink it on the show. I'm pretty sure.
But now you have established, though, we have established a key rule: beer is bread.
Yeah.
So it has to be something beer and then jelly and then peanut butter.
Okay, beer is bread. Bread is food. Therefore, beer is food. Don't at me, doctor.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to our show and our great advice about drinking.
Throw away your sandwiches, but definitely drink beer.
If you
got a choice, you can eat your beer or you can drink your bread.
As Mr. T said, if you believe in yourself, eat all your school, stay in milk, drink your teeth, don't do sleep, and get 8 hours of drugs, you'll get hyped.
If you're doing drugs, stop it.
Get some help. And remember, if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. The only other criteria I can think of is for our real estate service. How viable is this for the market?
I'm pretty sure our real estate company is going to get like wound down or declare bankruptcy because we can't sell shit.
That's true.
There's too many outdoors locations, unfortunately, that are given. And I get it, but liminal spaces tend to be more indoors.
It's just easier to have like 4 walls and a ceiling, you know?
Yeah. I think it evokes that feeling of like bizarre emptiness better than like a large open space. I don't know.
And liminal, like, I think the most engaging liminal spaces are man-made because they are kind of dungeons of our own design. They are these boxes that we put ourselves in and we live in more than we are outdoors these days. So when I see outdoors, I don't think liminal space because I don't think claustrophobic. You know, granted, if this was an unending underwater cave and we were cave diving, sure. But most people don't encounter that. Most people encounter an open field at some point, a forest, a river, a mountain, a hill, whatever. And none of those strike me as liminal, like, at all.
So I'm looking up like what is considered a liminal space, and the idea says it's in architecture it's defined as the physical space between one destination and the next. And
I mean, I guess a bridge kind of counts in that criteria, but
if it was a sky bridge, maybe.
Ooh.
It's also the fact that it's a space that refers to a place the person is in during a transitional period. That's another, if you want to go more mental with it. But in terms of the aesthetic, it's the idea of portraying empty. So the aesthetic is portraying empty or abandoned places that appear eerie, forlorn, and often surreal. So you know what? Okay. Come to think about it, these all technically count, with the exception of the, I don't think the apartment complex really counts that much.
It was the closest, but just also didn't work.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that we are the arbiters of what is and is not liminal space. It is.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
We are now. I got the legal rights to the name Liminal Space Realtors. We have the authority. It's on paper. God damn it!
It's an internet trend, and that's going to morph and just be, and derivative things are going to be made of it, and it's not going to, you know, from one month to the next, it's going to be something else, and that's fine. But as with all these things, it's going to be really hard to get away from what originally made it popular, and that's always going to be viewed, at least with some reverence, as like the pure, true cult, whatever, you know. And, you know, sorry, the Backrooms is the OG liminal space as far as internet horror is concerned. That's indoors. That's man-made. That's kind of what you got to work off of. But you do you know, do whatever.
Yeah, we're not trying to yuck anyone's yum here.
I think the idea behind, from what I gather, the idea behind this horror is the fact that you don't know where the end is, and because it's the idea of transitions, is you're going from one space to another. Mm-hmm. So yes, a bridge counts as one, a hallway or anything like that. But I think it is the fact you don't know what's at the end. Or
it's being in a limbo.
Yeah.
They also have to
be able to move on.
And there's got to be, and I guess like there's got to be a sense that like, I don't know if this was required, but there's this sense that like when people do liminal spaces, like, and something sinister is there stalking you. That seems to be something that a lot of the more derivative stuff has latched onto. You know,
that's why I feel like the corn maze, or like being in a cornfield and looking around and seeing nothing for miles, does have that eeriness, or
that is pretty eerie.
Or as I mentioned,
definitely
the suburban neighborhood where like when you go, there's so many turns, and then you find a lot of what do you call them?
Cul-de-sacs, yeah,
and all that.
How do I get out of here? What even is a cul-de-sac? Why even is a cul-de-sac?
You know what that means in French?
What is it? Wait, what does cul-de-sac mean in French? I feel stupid.
I learned this from Paprika because she works for a French company, but it means butt of the bag. To which I said, sure, okay, thanks, French.
So, special shout out to anyone who lives on a butt of the bag out there.
Hey,
dang. You're now the butt of this joke.
Okay, there was a point I mentioned to Abby, like, there's the movie that has like a suburban horror feel, and it's called Vivarium. That's the film that I was.
Yeah, never saw it, but I did hear about it.
Yeah, if the visuals, like I saw a trailer for it, and the visual for that where it shows like the never-ending set of houses that look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yike.
Yeah.
Ticky-tacky houses, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. No, whatever. It's a tangent.
I was just thinking, like, we've had fun. We've been here for a while. We've done our thing, but I think it's important to mention that if you want to hear more of what we do, or you want to hear more of what other podcasts do, we are all nice and cozy on the Creative Horror Network. Our various shows include the aforementioned Jameson tapes, Midnight Marinera, Darkly Lit, The Witching Hour, Trick or Track, and so much more. And more to come. Speaking of Darkly Lit, we are carrying on with our current season. It's a lot of fun. I just picked up theme music by T. Marie Vandelli. That's the next one we're going to be reading, and it's much shorter than the last one we read, so no excuses, scrubs. Get on our level. I had to go find it because I like actually having the physical book in my possession. If you want to support, heck, I'll be honest, if you want to support the whole Creative Horror Network by October when we make the transition, the Midnight Marinera Patreon is going to become the Creative Horror Patreon as a whole. So you want to do that, patreon.com/Midnight Marinera. That gets you access to our Discord, which is where we tend to be most active these days because, let's be honest, the artist formerly known as Twitter is definitely continuing to go downhill.
That's a great way to call it. The artist formerly named Twitter.
I refuse
Do we really
to call
want
it.
to give Twitter that much of like praise? It was never that
No,
good.
it was already pretty
God,
bad.
no.
But
I'm praising David for coming up with that name rather than.
it's not endearing, unlike what I would refer to the artist formerly known as Prince. But I refuse to call it. I refuse to call it what it's called now.
Yeah,
That
I'm not calling it that.
Yeah. That being said, until some other more productive form of social media sharing becomes a thing, you mainly will find us there. I do still post on the Twitter occasionally, but otherwise, I think by the time we get past this next Midnight Marinera, I'm probably just going to be going completely silent on that as well. Who knows? I don't. But
what David is saying
intention.
is we're currently in a limbo because we're in a liminal space, and the more you give to the Patreon, the quicker we get to October. So
Oh yeah, and I have a lot of fun
subscribe.
stuff. Subscribe. Be our friend. Give us money. We like that. All of this, keep in mind, all the stuff we do here, we never put on ads. We never do anything for this. This is not for profit. We do this for fun. And if you want to help support us in that, we really do appreciate it. So I try to make sure that anybody who is a patron gets their story bumped up a little further on the list. And this has been a fun little experiment in that regard. I've enjoyed having these 3 stories, this trilogy of liminal spaces. But I think it's time we put the real estate aside for a bit. The market has definitely crashed, and we look into some other lucrative scheme. What do you all think?
Unlike the real estate market, this one's crashed.
That's just depressing.
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinera, and this podcast is part of CreativeHorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at CreativeHorror.com.